In the early morning of September 14th, two major sites owned by oil giant Saudi Aramco were hit by a series of coordinated aerial strikes. One strike hit Abqaiq, the largest oil processing facility in the world, and the other targeted the Juarez oil fields. Later that same day, the state-owned company published a statement on their site. They said the fires had been put out, and they described the incident as a terrorist attack with projectiles. The attack caused a suspension in production of 5.7 million barrels of crude oil per day. That's almost half of Saudi Arabia's daily oil output and more than 5% of our daily global supply. Shortly after the attacks, the Houthi rebels in neighboring Yemen took credit. But the U.S. and Saudi Arabia have dismissed those claims, accusing Iran of being behind the attacks. Meanwhile, Iran has repeatedly denied any involvement. So, who do we believe? Many questions still remain unanswered, but I looked at the available evidence to bring you the clearest picture. On September 15th, the U.S. released a series of annotated satellite images taken by Digital Globe. As of now, this is the only information the U.S. has publicly released. And while they don't conclusively point to one country, there are a number of details we do pick up from them. The attacks were very precise. The images released give us a glimpse of what Juarez looked like before the strike. And here's what it looked like the day after the attack. See these red boxes? They highlight the areas of the facility that sustained damage. You can make out two burnt columns. These are part of the oil-gas separation units. And let's take a look at Abqaiq. This is what it looked like before the attack. And here we see it after the attack. From the images and annotations, you can see that it suffered at least 17 hits to its infrastructure. Experts told me that the damaged structures were vital parts of the production chain. In this closer shot, you can tell that the attackers precisely punctured these large oval tankers. These are called spheroids. They're used to separate gas from crude oil so that the oil can be shipped by tankers. Because they are large and uniquely designed, experts I've spoken to say they could take months to repair. Another detail to notice is that the other parts of the facility are relatively untouched. I spoke to a longtime imagery analyst, and he told me it was clear that this was not a random strike.
When you look at the image closely, you see that this attack was well planned. It was well coordinated, and the attackers knew exactly what to do to impact the facility with the greatest amount of damage for the least amount of expenditure of weapons. This was a professional attack. That's obviously clear.
The attackers also knew how vital Abqaiq was to Saudi energy production. The strike targeted the heartland of Saudi Arabia's oil industry, the largest oil processing center in the world. I spoke with Tom Warwick, who visited Abqaiq during the Obama administration, and this is how he described its importance.
There is literally no other facility like this. Abqaiq is as unique as the Panama Canal or the Santa Monica Freeway or something else for which there really is no other substitute. It's not as though you could just take all the oil from Saudi's oil fields and route it somewhere else to be processed. It had no other alternative but to go through Abqaiq before it could be exported. And whoever struck Abqaiq must have known that and must have known that they were targeting a facility that would significantly reduce Saudi Arabia's ability to export oil.
From studying the images and speaking to experts, we were able to determine that the strike was carried out with a high level of precision. Just a few days after the release of the satellite imagery, we got a bit more info on how the strikes were carried out. In a press conference, a Saudi official revealed that a total of 25 drones and cruise missiles were launched. 18 drones hit Abqaiq, 4 cruise missiles hit Juarez, and 3 cruise missiles fell short of their targets. Experts told me that the ability to get so many weapons to hit in the same area in a short period of time shows a great deal of capacity and coordination, which they say is not within the capabilities of the Houthi rebels. At this press conference, the Saudi official also said that the attacks were unquestionably sponsored by Iran. They showed maps aimed at proving the attack originated from the north and not from Yemen, where the rebels had claimed they had been launched. The Saudis also displayed remains of drones and missiles they said were found at and around the sites, but they still didn't have any information on the exact launch point. So where does that leave us? Fabian Hinz is an open source analyst who focuses specifically on missile proliferation in the Middle East. I asked him whether or not the evidence laid out at the conference helped us to determine who was behind the attack.
It's very, very hard and difficult to find smoking gun hard evidence for anything, but you have balanced probabilities that tilt in one direction or another. So what we can say, looking at the debris of the weapons recovered, is that they were Iranian-made, Iranian-designed. That is something we know for sure.
Britain, France, and Germany have now joined the U.S. in blaming Iran. Even though we've been able to piece together details of the attack thanks to publicly available information, we're still waiting for one of these governments to release information on where the missiles and drones were launched from. That would provide more evidence of who was actually behind the attack.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.